I trusted the voice in my head. The voice first appeared on a Tuesday morning, soft and almost polite, like it didn't want to interrupt my thoughts. I was standing at the bus stop, clutching my bag with one hand and my phone with the other, watching the city wake up in tired shades of gray. My life felt like that color back then. Not sad enough to cry over, not hopeful enough to smile about. Just gray. Wait, the voice said inside me. I frowned slightly. I wasn't imagining things. It didn't sound like my own inner monologue, the one that usually criticized my hair or reminded me of unpaid bills. This voice was calm. Certain. I took a step back from the curb without knowing why. A second later, the bus sped past, splashing muddy water onto the place where I had been standing. People cursed. I just stood there, heart pounding, staring at my wet shoes and then at the empty road. I told myself it was coincidence. Nothing more. I had grown up being told not to trust myself too much. Teachers said I daydreamed. Relatives said I was too sensitive. Friends joked that I overthought everything. So when that quiet voice started appearing more often, I did what I'd been trained to do my whole life. I ignored it. Until the day I didn't. That day, the voice asked me to sit next to an old woman on the bus. There were plenty of empty seats, but it nudged me gently toward her. She smelled faintly of jasmine and carried a cloth bag that looked heavier than it should have been. "Are you comfortable, Beta?" she asked as I sat down. I nodded, smiling politely. 2 stops later, she struggled to stand, her bag slipping from her hands. I grabbed it before it hit the floor and helped her off the bus. Outside, she paused, breathing heavily, and looked at me with eyes full of relief. "Thank you," she said. I was scared I'd fall. My legs don't listen to me anymore. We walked slowly to the corner. She told me she lived alone now. Her son had moved abroad. Her neighbors were kind but busy. When we reached her building, she pressed a toffee into my palm like I was still a child. That night, as I unwrapped the toffee, the voice whispered, "See?" I still didn't fully trust it. But I started listening. The voice never told me to do anything grand. It didn't predict the future or give me winning lottery numbers. It only nudged me toward small kindnesses, tiny shifts in routine that felt insignificant at first. Call her back. Hold the door. Ask if he's okay. Stay. One evening, I was about to leave the office late, exhausted and irritated, when the voice told me to check the washroom before going. I almost didn't. I just wanted to go home. But I did. Inside, I heard quiet sobbing. A new intern, barely out of college, stood in front of the mirror trying to wipe her tears before anyone noticed. When she saw me, she panicked and apologized for crying, as if sadness itself were a mistake. I didn't know what to say, so I just stood there and listened. She talked about feeling stupid, about making a small error that her supervisor had snapped at her for, about missing home. I handed her a tissue. Then another. Later, she messaged me to say thank you. She said that moment kept her from quitting that very night. The voice didn't say, "You saved her." It just said, "Good." Not everyone understood the changes in me. I started pausing more. Listening more. Saying yes when I would have said no, and no when I would have forced myself to say yes. Some friends said I was acting strange. One even joked, "You look like you're always listening to someone who isn't there." Maybe I was. The hardest moment came when the voice told me to forgive. There was someone in my life I had locked away in silence, someone who had hurt me deeply with words that still echoed in my worst moments. Forgiveness felt like betrayal of my own pain. I argued with the voice for days. No, I thought. Not this. But it persisted, not angrily, not urgently. Just patiently. Forgive, not for them. For you. I wrote a message I never planned to send. I rewrote it a dozen times. When I finally did send it, my hands shook so badly I had to put the phone down. The reply came hours later. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. An apology I hadn't expected. An admission of ignorance, not malice. I cried that night, not because everything was fixed, but because something heavy finally loosened its grip on my chest. Slowly, life began to feel less gray. The voice didn't make me fearless. It didn't protect me from mistakes. I still got hurt. I still doubted myself. But now, when doubt screamed, there was something quieter beneath it, something steady. One rainy afternoon, the voice told me to take a different route home. I hesitated, annoyed by the inconvenience, but I listened. On that unfamiliar street, I found a small bookstore with foggy windows and a handwritten sign that said, "Come in. It's warm." Inside, the owner offered me tea and conversation. I left with a book that felt like it had been written just for me and a feeling I hadn't known I was missing. Belonging. The most important day, though, was the day the voice went silent. I woke up expecting it, waiting for the usual gentle guidance, but there was nothing. Just my own thoughts again, loud and uncertain. Panic crept in. Had I imagined everything? Had I lost something essential? I went through the day feeling unsteady, second-guessing every choice. At night, sitting alone, I whispered into the quiet, "Are you still there?" No answer came. But then I realized something. I held the door open for a stranger without thinking. I texted a friend who'd been distant and asked how they really were. I trusted my instinct to rest instead of pushing myself into exhaustion. I smiled softly. The voice hadn't disappeared. It had become part of me. It was never something mystical or separate. It was the part of me that had always known how to be kind but had been taught not to trust itself. The part that noticed, that cared, that chose softness in a hard world. I understood then why the voice had been so gentle at the start. It wasn't there to command me. It was there to remind me. Now, when people ask how I've changed, I don't tell them about a voice in my head. I just say I learned how to listen. Not just to others, but to myself. And every time I choose kindness, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one sees it, the world feels a little warmer. Less gray. I trusted the voice in my head. And in doing so, I learned to trust my heart.